Welcome back inside the Hall of Fame. You hear the music. Every time you've heard that music before, what colors you see?
Red and yellow, brother.
Hey, that's what color
Red and yellow,
you see.
brother.
Hey, guys, I told you I had a very special guest stepping inside the Hall of Fame with myself and Brad Gilmore tonight. Hey, welcome to the show, guys. The incredible Hulk Hogan.
Hey, what's up, my brothers? How you doing, man?
Hey, man. We're doing good, man. We're doing real good, man. First of all, I want to thank you for stepping inside the Hall of Fame. I'm sure this is not something new to you, stepping inside the Hall of Fame, of course.
He's been there before.
You've been there before. Yeah, it's not your first rodeo or anything, man. But how you feel, bro?
Everything's good, man. I'm actually glad to be back in the Hall of Fame. So everything's cool, man.
Hey, well, let's call you a two-time Hall of Famer also.
Yeah, you know what? They didn't give me a ring the second time, though, darn it. So I'm gonna have to get them on that. But it was great to see you guys last week in New York, man.
No, man, that's what the business is, man. Every time, we see each other, it's like old times, man. I was just talking to Brad a second ago. I was in Detroit this weekend, and I was with Ric Flair, with the Nasty Boys, Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Every time we somewhere, he's, he got everybody go,
you got to work the gimmick, man.
I'm serious, man, but it just feels so good, man. Let me say first and foremost, I'm glad to see you back where you belong inside the WWE.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool to be hanging out. I mean, it's just it's just every time I go, man, I'm so much older than all these young kids that are in the ring now. I'm like, holy smokes, because even my son Nick, who he's like 29 years old, and he said something the other day. He goes, Dad, I went out to a club the other night. I'm the oldest guy in there. My son's only 29. That's 29 years old. That's how I felt when I walked in the WWE, there for WrestleMania Hall of Fame. I went, man.
Yeah.
I said, the guys, the guys that are about 35, 40 years old, they like the AJ Styles and all the new guys, Seth Rollins, they're all of a sudden old timers.
You're right, man. That's what's crazy, man. I remember back in WCW when I was the youngest guy. I wasn't the youngest, but I was close. I was close to the youngest guy in the locker room. And then I remember waking up one day and I was like, man, I'm the oldest guy in the locker room now. What happened? Time flies, man. But I mean, you started, man. You started in the heyday of professional wrestling. I think in the '80s, man. The '80s was, the rock in wrestling. That's what it was, man. It was like being a rock star, man. What was it like when you first started back then? That's what I want to delve into, the beginning of your rise before you was actually Hulk Hogan. What was that like?
Well, brother, I started before the '80s, man. I was down here in Florida, and watching Florida Championship Wrestling, and I got to see Dusty Rhodes every week, and if he wasn't on TV, we were pissed off because, if we didn't see Dusty Rhodes, we were hell to pay for a whole nother week. But, I got to see all the great wrestlers come in through here because when there's territories, the promoters were all friends, or they had a business arrangement. So Vince McMahon Sr. would send down like Ivan Koloff and superstar Billy Graham and Ivan Putski. So I got to see everybody come through here in Florida. And so I got started and actually had my first match at the end of 77, 78,
Wow.
So it was a little different back then. I've told this story 20 million times because, the Performance Center, they'll pay you to work out or pay you to train, and they've got doctors and trainers and all that stuff. And then the first day I went down for a workout, they broke my leg and said, don't ever come back. So it was a different
Changed a little bit
back in the day,
Yeah. Well, my thing is this. People ask me all the time. Actually, one of my friends, his named Dominic, man, we grew up together, and he goes, man, Book, did you know you was gonna be, like this? Did you know you was gonna be famous? When did you know that this was it for you? That light bulb moment that, man, this is what I'm gonna do, and I don't want to do anything else.
Well, I grew up a wrestling fan. My father took me to my first match when I was like 9 years old, and I got hooked. I got hooked from day one. So I was always a wrestling fan, but, in between playing baseball and stuff like that in high school, I started playing music. While some kids would go out and work on the weekends, I was playing in a band, making money playing music,
And the girls like the guys in the band too, that's a good.
It's another good route to take.
That's a good way in.
No, but what happened was I started playing music, and I said, man, I don't want to work a real job. I said, good God, so I ended up playing music for like 10 years, but I was always that wrestling fan. And then when I had that opportunity to meet these guys, of course, you didn't know back then if they were going to break your nose, or if you said wrestling was fake, they'd beat your ass, or if you said that was a nice show, they'd punch you in the face. So I was so afraid of the wrestlers, but I had because Eddie Graham took real good care of protecting the business down here,
Right.
He was the promoter. So when I was playing in the band, when I came back to Florida after playing all through Atlanta and up through the Carolinas, when I came back to Florida, I had a really good band, the last band I was in. All the wrestlers started coming. If I was in Tampa, all the wrestlers would show up there after the Armory, or if I was, over in Orlando or wherever the hell I was, the wrestlers would show up. So once I started talking to them, I realized, they weren't going to rip my arms off and eat them. And so that's when I asked, to get in the business. So actually, because I played music for so long and I didn't want to work a real job, I started thinking when I tried to be a wrestler, I said, man, I don't want to work a real job, so I'm going to try to be a wrestler. So I just basically wanted to make a living. I wanted to be a good enough wrestler to make a living. I never thought this was going to take off.
Wow. And that's normally the way it is. It's a lot of times, you slip on a banana peel, and next thing you know, you get the rocket put on you. You're going straight to the moon. That's just the way it is. And that's kind of like the way it happened for me. I didn't see myself doing this at all. I never dreamed of being a wrestler when I was a kid or anything like that. I loved it more than anything. I couldn't wait to watch it on Saturday night and then watch that same show that next Sunday morning. And it was so exciting to watch the same show because you knew exactly what was going to happen. But it was crazy. But
and you never know, like what thing that you do is going to lead to that big moment in your career.
Exactly.
Hulk was doing the Rocky movie. How important was that to get you to the next level? Because before you weren't the incredible Hulk Hogan, and then after Rocky 3, it feels like that was kind of what kicked everything in motion.
Well, it kind of was to the general fanfare, but I kind of like beat around the circuits for a few years. When I broke in here in Tampa, I was basically everybody's gopher. My girlfriend had a brand new car. So the wrestlers had me driving her car, and I would have, Rocky Johnson and Gordon Nelson and Buddy Colt and all these guys in the back of the car. And I was their driver from Tampa to Miami. Even if I wasn't wrestling, they'd make me drive them. 5 hours there, 5 hours back. So, I bounced around. I wrestled in Tampa. And I quit. Then I went back up. Then I went up to Pensacola and wrestled for the Fullers up through there and through Dothan, Alabama, and Birmingham. And I lasted for a while, and then I went up and had a little short run in Memphis, and I quit again. And then I went back to the docks because I was a union laborer in between bands. If you're playing in the band, and the best way to make money is to get on those ships and load those ships. So I finally get to a point after all those years of bouncing in and out of working on the docks where I quit, and I was done with wrestling, and I went back and I was working on the docks as a longshoreman. And the Briscoes called me and they said, hey, man, there's this guy, Vince McMahon Sr. And this was about 1979, almost 80. There's a guy, Vince McMahon Sr., that wants to talk to you. I said, I don't want to wrestle. I'm done with it. And they said, no, this is a big man's territory. New York, Madison Square Garden, all this stuff. So I flew up there, and Vince Sr. gave me the name Hulk Hogan. But that's where the original break came, because that run I had up there from 79 through 80, I wrestled Andre at Shea Stadium, and I get some really good breaks there. And then right when I was getting ready to go to work for the Carolinas, that whatever it is, Crockett territory, where they had all those long trips back in the day. Right when I was getting ready to go to work there, I got a call from Stallone to do the movie. I went back and forth with Vince Sr. about it. He said, if you go do the movie, you'll be fired here and you'll never work here again.
Wow.
So, I wrestled for about another 6 months in the WWF. And then I told Vince Sr. I was going to the movie, and he went out of his mind. He said, you'll never work here again. But the actual break came way before the Rocky movie. The break came when I went up to New York.
Wow. But it could have been over just like that. My brother was talking about that story. It was over almost before it got started. But, hey, man, that's the way it is, man. Hey, man, I remember one of the first times I ever met you. I'm sure you don't remember it. But it was here in Houston at the Summit, and you guys had a show here, and I remember going in the locker room, and because Barbarian and had got my brother and I in. He was real cool with us, and he got us in the back, and we wasn't even wrestlers back then. We were just trying to get in, and he brought us back, and he let us meet all the guys, and what I remember the most. This is what I remember the most, Hulk, is I walked in, and there was this one room, and and it had all of the Ultimate Warriors memorabilia up in it, and it had, Warrior this, Warrior that, and Warrior was, it was his own locker room, and then I went into this other locker room, and you and all the boys were playing cards and laughing, and it was just like a party going on,
Oh yeah.
What do you?
He's like, I remember that, brother.
I'm serious. I mean, that's what it was before the match. It was like, a gathering of, man, let's have some fun. Y'all guys playing cards. All the guys used to play cards back then. I didn't play cards, and everybody was having fun. And that's what I remember the most about the business back then. What do you think the biggest difference it is about the business then and the business now?
Well, I mean, as far as the wrestling business, the biggest difference is, for me.
That's a tough question. That's a tough question, isn't it?
Show. What's that?
I said that's a tough question, isn't it?
No, it's not really, because you're just talking about the party in the locker room.
Yeah.
I can tell you about all those changes.
Yeah,
too.
yeah. Go for it.
But the biggest change that I've seen in the business is the production is now the star. Before you had the Harlem Heat, you had Booker T, Stevie Ray, you had, Sting, you had Roddy Piper, you had Andre the Giant, you had the Ultimate Warrior, you had the Macho Man. Those were the stars. Yeah. Now the production is the star, and it's such a big, wide, fat monster coming down the road. The WWE is such a big, powerful monster that if, a Dean Ambrose gets hurt, or Roman Reigns has a problem with leukemia or something like that, the monster keeps going. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where before, if Hulk Hogan got hurt or something happened with Piper, it screwed up the whole machine, So that's the biggest difference I've seen, is the machine is getting so big, and WrestleMania is coming. They advertise and put it on sale, and they really don't even have to advertise any matches, to tell you the truth.
Wow.
If they didn't want to, they'd sell out. So that's the biggest difference I've seen, is that the machine and the production is now the star. And as far as the party in the dressing room, that's all gone. That's history. And it's just guys are more serious about the business. They're more focused. They got a tougher schedule. They got more content. They got more shows. They got so many places they got to be. You can't be screwing around drinking beer till 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. They have to be on,
Yeah.
And that's the change in the locker room, because they can't go out and raise hell and party every night, because they, for us to go to the next town the next day, they have like 5 or 6 or 7 other things business-wise that they might have to do before they even get to that town the next day, such as go to the hospitals or do charity events or the bullying events. So these guys have a full schedule now, so they have to be businessmen 24 hours a day.
Man, I tell you, that was a perfect answer. I see those guys coming off the overseas tours. They come to the Monday Night Raw, and I say, man, I look at them and, man, how do you guys do it? You know what I mean? I thought I had a tough schedule. Hey, Hulk, stick around, man. I got to take a quick break, but we're going to be back inside the Hall of Fame in one momento. Welcome back inside the Hall of Fame, y'all. But before we do anything, we're just going to let this roll just for a second. Just let it flow.
Good right there.
I said, boy, man. Hey, y'all, man. We got the incredible Hulk Hogan inside the Hall of Fame. And I tell you, couldn't be more fitting music right there. Brought to you by DJ Jerry Heller. It takes me right to the place I need to be, man. 1996, the formation of the nWo, Hall, Nash, and Hogan. That's what I want to talk about. Hulk,
Yes, sir.
Hey, man, when this group was formed, man, first and foremost, you were playing a totally different role. You had the black beard, and then you had the the blonde stripe in it. You totally went black on everyone. Went away from the red and yellow, the hero that we once looked up to. What was it like? Being the good guy for so long. I mean, me personally, I never thought I would see Hulk Hogan ever play the bad guy. But what was it like? What were you dealing with inside actually playing that role?
Well, once I got into it, man, it was the best move I'd made in a long, long time. But at the time, I was kind of like taking a little hiatus from the WCW. I was taking like a month off doing one of those low budget kids movies, that I was famous for doing.
Yeah.
And
By the way, I love Three Ninjas, High Noon at Mega Mountain. I watched it about 8,000 times as a child. So I just shout out to you.
Oh my God, that's great. But yeah, I was doing some movie out in L.A. And I think we were filming Santa with Muscles in the middle of July, where I had to wear a Santa suit the whole time for the movie. But Eric Bischoff was telling me that Hall and Nash were coming in. And I've always been a single wrestler, and I've been in a couple tag teams here and there, but I just felt real uncomfortable, being in tag teams because I was so into doing my own thing and pace my own matches, and I didn't have a partner that I had, any synergy with, any, what I'm trying to say. I didn't click with anybody, and I'd never done that before. So I was worried about the three guys, because I'd always been a single wrestler. So, and I knew these guys were coming over from the WWE, and I knew they were part of the clique with Triple H and Shawn Michaels. And at the time, Shawn Michaels, and then I didn't know Triple H very well, but at the time, Shawn Michaels, I don't think I was his favorite person at that time. And I knew Kevin and Scott were close with him. So when they were coming over and Eric was, basically asking me about doing it, I waited till the very last minute. I wouldn't give him the decision. And I saw Scott come on TV, and I told Eric, I said, let me see how they receive Kevin Nash. And then when I saw Scott and Hall together, and I saw that the perception was they were still working with the WWF at the time.
Yeah.
No one knew that they were, free agents and they were done. They quit or they were done with their contracts or Vince let them out of it. But the perception was that they still worked for the WWF and they were invading the WCW. And when I saw that that's what the fans thought, I said, oh, this is going to be perfect. So I kind of had called Eric up and told him I'd do it. But just thank God you called me because I was just getting ready to pick a different person instead of you. And I think he was going to pick Sting. But the truth was, those Hall and Nash being WWF guys and me being, at the time, the ultimate WWF guy, it worked much better, I think, with me in there than anybody else. But once we started clicking, man, I knew that first night when I told everybody, you kids were bumming gas to get to high school when I was selling the world out. I knew as soon as I turned heel, nobody wrote our promos back then. We still did our own thing. I knew the reaction we got with people throwing stuff in the ring. I knew we were onto something big time.
Yeah. That's the thing. The wrestler know when the fans start throwing the cups and, it's all kind of trash stuff. I remember you guys loved that more than anything. And it took off like a rocket, man. And that's the thing with me. I always wondered, was that, by design, or did somebody slip on a banana peel and create the NWO?
Well, Eric came up with the idea. I remember him talking about the New World Order, and it was on the dollar bill. If you turn a dollar bill over, it says New World Order on it. And he was telling me there was a group of wrestlers in Japan that kind of were doing the kind of like the New World Order thing. So Eric, I don't know if he came up with the idea or got it over there in Japan, but he's the one that approached me with it. I really didn't get it at first until I started listening to Mac 10 and a bunch of other stuff, and then I kind of figured it out. I'm a little slow learner. But as soon as I figured out what was going on, man, I jumped all over it because it did get red hot.
Nah, man, it was white hot. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
how hot it was. I'm serious, man. It literally took over the wrestling world, and that's one of the things I want to talk to you about. Do you think it was in certain aspects? You think it was a good thing or a bad thing? Because the NWO was so over, it definitely overshadowed every guy in the locker room in a sense.
Well, I think if Eric could have went back, I think he'd have probably handled it much differently.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
I think, believe it or not, Eric being in that spot, it's not like he'd been in 20 territories. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, yeah,
So for him to run the company like that, this is like his first territory, really.
yeah.
You know, and when your first territory, you do make mistakes. It's not like he'd work for Barnett or work for Crockett or work in Portland, Oregon, and he promoted, California and promoted, Canada. This was his first gig, bro.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So this
yeah.
is like, I don't want to say it was his preliminary match because they threw him right in the main event. He's running the company, so of course you're going to make mistakes. I think he probably would have rethought a lot of things if he could do it over now.
Yeah, I mean, I had a conversation with Eric, and when he asked me a question about the NWO, I gave him my answer, and he goes, "Oh, I didn't know you felt that way." I go, well, and the thing is, hindsight is 2020. If you can go back and change everything, the world wouldn't be what it is today. But I always thought, man, the NWO literally could still be the biggest thing in wrestling today, if that thing would have been done right. If it wasn't the black and red, the red and black, the LWO. I mean, just everything just went crazy. But I always thought, as far as factions go, I still see the T-shirts today. People still, I mean, brand new. So somebody getting that money. But I tell you, man, I just thought it could have been the biggest thing that ever happened in professional wrestling. And one thing I want to ask you about, and all you got to do is just it could just be a one, yes or no. Hogan knows best. If you could do that all over again, would you?
Well, I'm going to answer that question, but I'm going to go back to what you're just talking about for 1 second.
Okay.
You think the NWO could still be the biggest thing today?
Yeah.
Even though we watered it down, a lot too many guys didn't handle it right. A lot of guys sometimes didn't want to bring their wrestling boots there. They'd rather talk than wrestle and all that crap that was going on. Even with the red NWO, black NWO, all the mistakes we made.
Yeah.
Forget all that stuff. When I went back to work in WWF and I wrestled The Rock, it's like none of those mistakes mattered. When we walked into the WWF, we were red hot, bro. I mean, when I locked up with The Rock in Toronto, they booed him out of the building. I mean, it was crazy, that WrestleMania 18 match,
No, that's exactly what I'm talking about.
And after that night, Vince made me go and put the red and yellow on.
Exactly my point.
Because when we came in, man, all the baby faces, Triple H and The Rock and Stone Cold, we're the guys that have been trying to put Vince out of business for 10 years. Now we're coming in as Vince's poison, and we're getting a push. We really didn't even get a push. They just threw us out there, and they wanted to see what happened. And we rocked the place, man, and all of a sudden, all the baby faces up there are getting booed by the guys that have been trying to put us out of business. And they changed that real quick.
No, I totally agree. I mean, but that's what I really mean. I really feel like, Hall, Nash, and Hogan, if that faction wouldn't have never been watered down with anything else. I'm talking about the red and black and red. You three guys, literally, as far as factions go, hands down, there would not even be a question at all. And that's why I just say it was mismanaged and whatnot. Hey, I got to take a quick break before you answer that second part, because my producer here telling me, Book, we got to take a break. Hey, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to be stepping back inside the Hall of Fame with the incredible Hulk Hogan in one momento. Welcome back inside the Hall of Fame. It's Booker T along with Brad Gilmore. On the line with the incredible Hulk Hogan, ladies and gentlemen. And the question was asked, man. Yes or no question, man. Hogan knows best. If you had a chance to do it all over again, would you?
Yeah, I would. The thing is, all these families that do these reality shows, the odds are most of them end up getting destroyed
Yeah.
in some way or
Yeah.
in some shape or form. But when I went into that reality show, to be completely honest with you, my brother, is my marriage was already broken really bad.
Yeah.
And my wife was real unhappy because the whole time we were married for 23 years, she thought we were going to end up in California, living there. But you can ask anybody back in the day that tried to work off the West Coast, it'd kill you to try to work off the West Coast when we were running full time like that.
Yeah.
Most of my business was on the East Coast and up in Connecticut because I was in the office a lot back in the day when 1983, 84, 85, all the way up till 90, I was in the office all the time with Vince. And then finally we got Patterson to come in and sit there for 12, 14 hours at a shot. But, she was unhappy, and so I thought that maybe doing the show, because we did a 1-hour special on VH1 about me being a stage dad.
Yeah.
And it got some crazy ratings. And then VH1 came back to me and said, the ratings were so crazy, how'd you like to do a TV series? And I explained to my family just how I get, autographs and fans 24 hours a day. And you guys are always asking me how I do with it. This is going to happen to you if we do a TV show. And everybody raised their hand. They wanted to do it, which I knew they would. My kids were young. But I thought that it would give my wife something like a job and make her happy. And it didn't. But I didn't know that at the time. So I would have done it all over again. It's the same circumstances,
And that's an honest answer. I can buy that right there, because I'm gonna tell you, I can't explain to you how many times my wife done said, "Hey, baby," I'm like, no, we ain't doing it. You know what I mean? We ain't doing it. And then I end up breaking down and. Hey, we doing it. So I totally can understand it and see it from that light. And you looking from the outside, looking in, you just wonder, and that, and like you said, every time I've seen someone do a reality show, nothing really good's come out of it. But going into it from that perspective, I definitely can see it. But let's move a little bit forward, because it's something people have been wanting to hear. I mean, our text line's blowing up. Hey, Jerry, I want Jerry to play a clip before we even get into it. Jerry, play that clip for me real quick.
We take what we want, and after we take Lex Luger and the Giants, we want the gold sucker. Hulk Hogan, we coming for you.
Man, that moment right there, back in WCW, that was the worst moment in my life at that point in time. I definitely want to stick my head in the sand and never come out. I thought.
Let me ask you this question.
Go.
I don't really remember during that time. Did it hit you right away, or was it later on where it turned into the worst day of your life? I don't remember.
Immediately, it was the worst day of my life. I cringed. I
wasn't aware of that. I'm sorry to hear that.
I cringed when I said it. I mean, I literally like chills went through my body, and I was like, "Oh God, what did I just say?" And the thing is, what's not ironic about it, that's a word that I used to use like on a regular basis, like every day, in my neighborhood where I grew up, that it was common. It's just something that we said. But in the wrestling business, until that day, Hulk, none of my peers had ever heard me use that word, black guys or white guys. No one had ever heard me say that. My wife, literally the first time she saw me, and for the first year or so, she was like, she didn't even think I listened to rap music because I was so straight laced. And when I said that, I was like, good God, man, I froze. I wanted to, like I say, I thought that was the end of my career. And my question is, why didn't you, be more ticked off about it? Or why didn't you, lobby to go in and get me fired?
I didn't understand at that time what was going on. That's why I just asked you. I said, did this happen immediately? I mean, did this happen later on, a year or 6 months or 2 years later? Because I wasn't aware how intense it was, So honestly, I haven't ever gone into the lobby to get anybody fired. much less over that word, because whenever that was, what year was that again?
What?
Remember what year it was?
98 maybe?
I think a little, or 97.
97.
96,
Yeah,
97.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember it being as sensitive as the politically correct environment now. So if it went down, I wasn't aware of it for years. If it did happen, and I was aware of it, it went in one ear and out the other, because I was so used to hearing it. So I didn't know it was that intense back then. So, I wasn't aware to be anybody. Plus, I'm not one of those guys that would go in there and say fire one of the boys for no matter what they did. That's not who I am.
Well, I mean, I say that because, so many people, like you say, right now it's such an inflammatory thing. And I said it pretty much about you. And I do remember, and my brother and I, we talk about it all the time. You may not even remember because, like you say, it like went over your head. It really wasn't much. But to me, at that point in time, literally it was everything. And I remember seeing you in catering the following week. After it happened, and Randy Savage, he was there as well. And Randy goes, "Hey, Hulk, what do you think about Booker calling you the N-word?" And you go, "Well, if I'm the N-word, I'm a good N-word." You know what I mean? That's what was said. And the thing is, until this conversation, we've never talked about it ever.
No,
it's never come up or anything like that. In all of these years, we've never said anything about it until this day right here. 4/22/19. It's the first time we've talked about it. And I just want to say, personally, bro, I thank you. I appreciate it because, you was labeled as a racist, okay? And the thing is, and I just want to put it out there. I think if you were a racist, that was a moment, that was an opportunity that a racist would have taken advantage of and say, "Man, I'm gonna get this ninja fired. He gonna work for me." You know what I mean? That's what I think a racist would have done. And then as well as me, I've been black for now 54 years, and I've been in a lot of racial situations. And I kind of like know the lay of the land. You could tell a racist by the people that he hang out with, his friends. That's how you tell a racist. Or you could tell a racist by the way a racist kids act. That's how you could tell a racist. You know immediately. How did you feel after your situation? Making a racist comment and then being labeled a racist. How did you feel about that? Because people make and I say that because people make comments all the time. Doesn't make them, it doesn't make them that.
You're saying words are one thing, actions are another.
Exactly.
Well, and that's what a lot of people don't understand is people can say a word or make a mistake, and that doesn't mean that's who they are. People that keep bringing it up and keep pushing it forward, those are the people I worry about. But for me, it was really a delayed reaction. That's kind of like why I asked you. I had used the word, and now it's going on almost 13 years ago. What's the date now? 19, almost 20?
Yeah.
19.
Yeah.
Now, I don't even know what year it is anymore. So it was said in 2006. And I was made aware of it probably, when did the darn Gawker trial start? I was made aware of it probably, I don't know time very well, so I'm probably saying about 5 years ago.
Yeah.
I don't think longer than that.
Yeah.
6 years, maybe 5 years. So it was set in 2006, and then I was made aware of it about 5 years ago. And to tell you the truth, I don't remember that conversation, but that definitely was me, and I definitely said it. And total idiot, totally out of control, bad situation. There's a million excuses for it, but it was me. I said it, and I tried to be accountable for it. But the thing is, the people that know me, and it's really cool that you would say just because somebody says a word doesn't define them or doesn't mean who they are. Because the people that know me, the first person that called me when the publicity came out was my minister, Michael Beckwith. And he runs the Agape Church there in Culver City. He came to my house and married me and Jennifer, and he's one of my good friends, and he's Afro-American, so first thing that happened was my minister called me. He goes, Terry, have I heard we've got some problems? I explained to Michael what happened. And he goes, first off, God forgives you. And he says, whenever you have a small problem, tell your big God about your small problems. I said, Michael, I've already talked to him about it. And he goes, don't worry what people think about you. Worry what God thinks about you. And he gave me some really good uplifting advice. And, after that, there was a ton of support from all my friends. And the hardest part was trying to explain to people that didn't know me. And some people only knew me because of that. Oh, my God, we never heard of Hulk Hogan until we heard him say this crazy word and it was on the news. That was the hardest part, was trying to explain to people who didn't know me, who I really was. And it was so hard to – and there's a lot of people now that, I've apologized to on several different levels and several times. And there's still some people that, the jury's still out. Some people are still tentative. And, I'm trying to, show them, like you guys were talking about, by my actions, who I really am. So it's been a really tough time, but a lot of people are very forgiving, and a lot of people that, are understanding, they've made some serious mistakes in their life too. And I think, normal people that have good hearts kind of understand that, if someone does make a mistake, you need to give them a second chance and see who they really are. So it's been a tough time, brother. I won't joke about it at all, but I'm just grateful now that my friends never left me and the fans never left me, and the people that a few of the people or a lot of the people that don't know who I really am, I've had an opportunity to speak to many of them as I can and try to not make an excuse, but be accountable and say, yeah, it was me, I did it, but that's not who I am,
Yeah. I tell you, somebody had asked me, man, what would you do? How do you feel about it? I said, man, if people judge me for what I did, more than 20 years ago, aggravated robbery, if people still judge me, on that, they wouldn't know who I am at all, man. I mean, because that one day did not define who I am. It definitely did not. And I say that as far as as far as your friends and whatnot. I'm good friends with Knobs, Nasty Boy Knobs. Knobs used to talk about you all the time back in the day, man. I'm hanging out with Hogan, man. I'm on the boat this week, where, all kind of stories, man. I've heard all kind of great stories, and none of them were racist stories or anything like that. As well as Knobs and I, Knobs. I could say this, man. I can honestly say this. Knobs for years, Brian Knobs. He's the only white guy that I've ever given a pass to call me the N-word. I swear. No, I'm serious.
It's almost like every time I was around him, he was calling. I mean, good God.
What's crazy though, what's crazy is I was in Tokyo, Japan, Knobs and I, and we was in this bar. It was called the Rolling Stone. And Knobs and I, man, we stayed out till like 4 o'clock in the morning, man. We was just hammering them back, man. We had so much fun. And I'm gonna tell you right now, if I needed anybody to have my back, it would have been Knobs.
Oh, yeah.
that was the guy. Yeah. That was the guy who would have had my back. No matter what went down, we went down together. I know that. I was just with him just this past weekend. So in saying that, Knobs, just this past weekend, Knobs go, hey, man, I love you, brother. I can't say that word anymore, though, but I love you, man. So even it's so political now, and everything is so, everybody's so uptight about everything. Everything is analyzed. Everybody got a comment. Like you say, a lot of people that, judge you never saw you, never knew you, never watched you. That was their first introduction, and people these days, they seem to hold on to everything. It's a different world that we live in today. And I think with social media being the way it is, I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah, we need to. I agree with what you're saying, Book. I think that a lot of times it's you can't forgive and forget. It seems like anymore. Yeah. Like move past it. But I've always deferred to you on. I remember when this whole incident happened. We were on the phone together right when this happened to you, Hulk. Booker and I were on the phone talking about it.
Yeah.
And Booker said this to me, and I'm saying it right now. He said, "Look, if it wasn't for Hulk Hogan, I wouldn't have had a wrestling career. Hulk Hogan looked at me and my brother and said, "That's y'all's hottest tag team. Push them to the top of the mountain," right? And I don't think that, and that's what goes back to the words versus actions. Now, just because we live in a more uptight community and culture now, that doesn't mean that it's okay to say those words.
No.
You know, I mean, I know people are more sensitive than normally. It's not okay to say, but we learn from them. We move on. You pat each other on the back. You say, "Love your brother." Won't happen again. I mean, I think that's just how you're supposed to be in life.
Well, my thing is,
Yeah, I mean,
go ahead,
the
go
good
ahead,
part.
go ahead. No, go ahead.
You know, the good part is the respect. I mean, if we're disrespecting anybody, we all need to be re-educated. And I totally agree now that everybody is, been kind of like more thoughtful and more caring. That the word doesn't work. I totally get that.
Yeah.
But being real about it, I still hear it all the time. I don't say it. I learned my lesson. I know it's unacceptable, and I don't want to hurt anybody. And so I had a hard lesson, but I've learned my lesson. But it's just like New Year's Eve. I was in Miami at New Year's Eve, and a buddy of mine's club. He owns the Live Club there in Fontainebleau, and one of the top Afro-American actors, one of the highest paid actors. He's not a wrestler. One of the highest paid Afro-American actors in the business came up to me, and he goes, "Oh, my gosh, my so-and-so, he's dropping the word. "Oh, my gosh, I grew up, I was 5 years old, and I've been in love with you. You're my favorite wrestler, bang, bang, bang." And I looked at him, and my wife and I looked at each other. We couldn't believe that it was. It was so crazy. But I forget, some of these actors that are making 15, 20 million bucks a movie that are 45 years old, they grew up 5 years old being Hulkamaniacs. I forget that,
Yeah.
And so when he said, it caught me so off guard. I said, whoa, brother, I love you too, man, but we can't say that.
Nah, you know what?
It was crazy, but in the real world, it's still thrown around.
It is. I was watching a thing on HBO just last week, and they had a bunch of NBA players. They were around doing like a table,
Like the shop.
Exactly.
The shop with LeBron?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And bro, they were just dropping it. And these are guys that play in the NBA. And you are exactly right. That's something that we've talked about on the show all the time. As far as it's said on the radio, throughout the day. You can't hear it enough on the radio without. Sometimes they don't even bleep it out. They just let it play through. We had an officer here from Galveston on the show, and he was talking about in school. The black kids said, the Asian kids said, the white kids said. It's just a word, and the word is destructive, and that's the end game. Because when you go in for an interview, you're trying to get a job. You got to know how to change the levels, and just like myself, having that interview and it slipped out. It could happen. If it could happen to me, it could happen to you.
Well, the thing was your energy. You were excited. You were doing an interview, and you had a cadence, you had timing, and it just came out.
It was in the hood.
It kind of fit for that second, but a second later it didn't fit. And I had some crazy energy, but I was mad and I was pissed off, and there's a million excuses, and it came out. But for me, understanding how powerful that is and how many people it hurt, I'll never say it again, because I don't want to hurt people. I'll come up with another word. I don't need that word if I have love for somebody and I see my best friend or my brother of the road. I might call him my soulmate or my traveling partner. I'll come up with something, but I don't need to use that word if it's going to hurt people, and I don't. So I learned that lesson, and it caught me by surprise, like I said, because it was said in 2006, and then all of a sudden I heard the recording. Many years later. So, whoa, where'd this come from? But it was me, and I went, holy shit! I can't believe I was talking like that. It was crazy.
Whoa, okay. I tell you, man. One of those things, man. It's one of those things. When you're in the heat of passion, we know about the heat of passion. People murder in the heat of passion. So words do come out in the heat of passion. So my thing is this.
Well, at the end of the day, there's nothing good that comes out of it.
No.
No.
At the end of the day, something did come out good come out of it, I think. No, because it is something that people need to talk about. It is something people need to be educated on. And our young generation, these days, a lot of times they just think we're just old guys and we're just talking, out the side of our neck, and we really don't know what we're talking about. But people died because of that word. We fought wars, because of that word. And for us bringing it to the forefront and being able to talk about it, you and I, it means something. And I've had people, say certain things about me on social media, but just because I called you a friend. People don't want to let things go, but people are going to be people. It's nothing I can do to change them. But those young kids out there that we can educate, that's listening to us right now, talking about that word that perhaps will change them and motivate them to, like my nephew. He lives out in California. He hangs out with all of his buddies, and all of them, they come up at each other and they say, "Hey, what's up, my ninja? Hey, what's up, my ninja?" They've changed the word. The narrative is still the same. This is my love. This is my homeboy right here. But just like you said, I could change the word and I could use a different word. They can too. And hey, Hulk, hey man, I just want to thank you. And for coming inside the Hall of Fame, and more importantly than that, man, I'm honored to be able to call you a friend.
Well, I tell you what, I've always considered you a friend, my brother, and seeing Stevie the other night, he was like, I said, "Damn, you look good, man. What's going on?" He goes, "Well, what kind of car are you driving?" I said, "Oh, you guys said you haven't changed a bit. All you want to do is talk about damn cars and motorcycles." So it was so great to see your brother the other night, man, and it's just really cool, man. It's just I got friends, and I'm honored to have you as a friend, and I just realized how many people stuck with me through thick and thin, and brother, that's strong, brother. That's to have friends that'll do that for you. That's amazing,
Hey man, I got your back, bro. Hey man, like I say again, man, I know you got to get out of here, but again, I just want to thank you for stepping inside the Hall of Fame and clearing all the air, man. Clearing all the air. I love you, brother. Appreciate
Love
you.
you too, my friend.
All right.
Thanks, Hulk.
Let's talk soon. All right. Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.